Hey guys, welcome back to another video. The day after City's very disappointing 1-1 draw against Chelsea. I haven't done a match reaction yet. I didn't get a chance to do it last night. Conveniently, genuinely conveniently, I was having software issues with my editing stuff, and I just, you know what, I was tired. Extremely tired, overtired from a bad day, a long day parenting, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to fight it. If Photoshop doesn't want to work, I can't make a thumbnail. But it's telling me to just go home, go to bed, Stephen. That's what my software was telling me last night. My computer was telling me. So I took that option, and thankfully, I've had a decent night's sleep, a clear head. I've had a nice day out in the snow playing with my son, and I feel quite, I feel in a good place to talk about this game of football. And this is a sort of post-mortem, and I thought the best way to break this down was strategically look at what happened, why it happened, and what to do about it. So I thought to break this down because I found last night, my reaction online, I was getting into arguments with everyone, left, right and centre on Twitter. And I think a lot of the arguments came from just a difference of approach. Like, whereas my head immediately goes to why it happened. I think a lot of people want to shout about what happened, if that makes sense. But I get past that. As soon as full time goes, what happens is irrelevant to me. I want to talk about why it happened, if that makes sense. Like, to me, there's very little value in shouting, we should have won. Because that's just right. It's obviously right, we should have won that. So I immediately go, I mean, you can shout that all you want. You can shout going, he was shit, he was that, he was this, blah, 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 blah. That doesn't really achieve anything. Like, that's how my head doesn't work that way. So I start to go, well, what happened? And what I found is that as soon as I start to go, well, the players were tired, blah, 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 and I start to try and explain it because my brain is pretty analytical with these things, people start going at me, you're making excuses. Like, I'm not making excuses. I think I just process the feeling compared to some people a bit quicker. Like, I get to the next step very quickly, if that makes sense. So I think that's where the disconnect happens when people get frustrated at me. It's probably going to be a good thing that I actually did the video today as opposed to last night. Because last night I was just arguing with everyone on Twitter, left, right and centre, because I think people were still very much in the venting stage of the process, if that makes sense, where I had to calmer today. And I think largely most people are actually roughly on the same page, but they don't get to that stage straight away. They just want to rant and call everyone shit. And fair enough, you know. And that's fair enough. That's as you're right. But my head just switches off from the events of the game almost immediately, if that makes sense. But I still think it's good to talk about what happened, then why it happened, and what do you do about it. Because I think what, why, and what next, is that right? I don't know, are the best ways to approach this. Like, my immediate feelings at full time were one of frustration, like everyone else. That is a game, I know it sounds obvious, but it's a game Manchester City should have won. Chelsea were, and the context of that game, Chelsea were an absolute sort of in a shambles. You know, they had their under-21 manager, Callum McFarlane, a guy who bounced around coaching City's youth sides, Southampton's youth sides, Chelsea's youth sides. Clearly mates with Joe Shields, they're a director of football who'd been at City and Southampton and Chelsea. Absolutely... very obviously a pal of the big dog who got him in that job. And, you know, still Chelsea did still put out a team of experienced players and internationals and winners. But it was a Chelsea side missing lots of key players and one that Manchester City really should have beat. You know, they were missing Cucurella, Levi Colwill, Moises Caicedo, Mudryk, if you want to count him, don't know, Romeo Lavia, a few other players. They were missing a lot of quality, but they still had a team, you know, with Cole Palmer, Pedro Neto, Esteemed, the Brazilian wonder kid, João Pedro, a really good Premier League player. Not been great for Chelsea, but he's still a good Premier League player. Enzo Fernandes, Reijnders James. I would remind people, as much as Chelsea have been a bit off, this is not a bunch of nobodies. Like Gusto, a Chimapong, a player I would love to see at City as a squad player, a Chalaboa, Bardashiel. These are good players. Not playing well, but these are good players. So it wasn't an abysmal side that we dropped points to, but it's still a side that was collectively... in a malaise that we should have been. And I think the fact that they sat back so deeply and let City have all the ball was evidence that there was more than enough quality for City to beat them, and we should have done that, you know. So I understand everyone's frustration because they were right. City were not good enough. Going back to, I mean, I'll go once again. I'll go to the what happened stage of thing, and I'll break it down using just, I don't know, some notes. I'll write some tweets out for you, and that'll explain what's going down for you guys. Where are we at? Let me just get this up online. There we go. So I'll do we're at the what happened stage. I'll type it up on screen. There we go. So the what happened. This at the what happened stage. So what happened? City should have beat Chelsea. Of course, in the first half, we were the much better side. I'll show you the stats for the first half here. 0.73 XG, so we weren't spectacular in creating chances, but we were the better side. Absolutely, we had plenty of shots. I don't really agree with Rodri's analysis of that. Rodri said after the game we could have been 3 or 4 up. I don't really think that was right. I think he was being a little bit generous there. It could have been 3 or 4, but it shouldn't have been 3 or 4. I don't think the quality of the chances were that high. Erling Haaland hitting the post, Foden putting one wide. They weren't gilt-edged chances. They were low-quality chances. High-quality players create good chances, but they weren't like clear chances that we missed. I mean, if one of those goes in, it's a really good goal, but it's not expected, if that makes sense. The goal that we scored as well wasn't even a high quality chance either. It was a really good finish. Like, we didn't have tap-ins in the way that the Sunderland chances, for example. The Sunderland chances were fantastic. We should have scored plenty more in that game. These ones were decent, if not necessarily special, obvious sitters of chances. The goal itself, tijjani Reijnders, was absolutely fantastic. It was a really nice finish. Aguero-esque left foot into the roof of the net. Beautiful stuff. And the team in the first half, they were good. We kept all the ball. The Rodri influence was there to see. We were defended pretty comfortably. Donnarumma had little to do. Haaland hit the post. Foden had a shot just wide. And we were comfortable in that first half, if not necessarily special. And we deserved the lead. The second half, we started okay for the first 15, 20 minutes. They had a decent chance for Neto, but other than that, we were reasonably in control of the second half up until the last 20 minutes or so, where we just lost our energy and momentum, which of course led to panic stations. The big blow for me when things started to go wrong was Josko Vardiol. Of course, at 51 minutes out, Josko Vardiol was a massive blow. We'll get onto that in a minute. Kusanov came on and was fine. He did his job, but of course, that was another big blow from Manchester City. Doku came on for Reijnders. Nathan Ake came on with 10 minutes left when Ruben Diaz went off. So we lost a centre-back pairing for Ake and Kusanov. And on the bench, there wasn't much more we could have brought on. We probably could have brought on Rico Lewis. I actually think, in hindsight, that might have been a smart move. I felt Foden, Shirky, Bernardo, they weren't playing particularly well. Rico, really good at ball retention. He would have kept the ball nicely. He would have been brought fresh legs, energy, and maturity. Rico Lewis is a very mature, intelligent young player who has the sort of similar soul and spirit to the way he approaches football as Bernardo Silva. Smart, technical player, manager's dream that way. And he would have been a decent bet. As it is, the team made countless bad decisions. They were giving the ball away far too sloppy. They got a little bit frenetic with their decision making. We were forcing it in the final ball. In the final third, we were all over the place. The passing was a bit all over the place. And in the end, the goal that we conceded, O'Reilly done far too easily. A little bit too scrappy. The ball came in the back of the net. And it just sort of trickled in the end with Enzo Fernandes putting it in. It was just a really poor goal to concede. Defensively, we could have done so much better. Multiple people nowhere near their best. So that's what happened. That is the what that happened. Now I want to talk about the why that happened. Like, why did that happen? Now, the immediate thing, some people want to just go, well, they're all shit. I mean, that's obviously not true. There's varying degrees of shitness to some of these players, but they're obviously not all shit footballers. Why it happened, the reason why it happened is because some players had a bad day. That's absolutely true. Then I want to talk about why those players had a bad day after that. But if we look at the individual performances, Shirky and Foden had stinkers. Shirky's been great since he joined, but he had a really bad performance here. Phil Foden as well. Everything Phil tried just did not come off. Even Bernardo was getting sloppy towards the end of that game as well. Haaland was absolutely... he was weird, Haaland, because he had a couple of moments. Hitting the post was really nice. He aggressively attacked a couple of headers, which was unlucky. He had that one driving run, which was on Rias, which is pretty decent. But the other times, he was sort of non-existent. I actually don't think Haaland was as bad as everyone made him out to be. I thought Haaland was actually okay. I think he was fine. Haaland, yeah, he was okay. I don't think he was horrific. I think he needed better service, and I think he was lucky not to score. And I think he was reasonably up for it, but he couldn't get him in the game, But I thought his aggression was not too bad. Defensively, I don't think we were too bad. Nunes, Diaz, Vardiol, O'Reilly, Rodri, I think they were okay. And Reijnders was okay as well. I think Reijnders could have maybe stayed on, but I understand the logic, if not necessarily fully agree. I understand the logic of keeping Foden and Shirky on because because Shirky's got more magic and been great, and Foden's Phil Foden. Guardiola trusts Phil Foden, and Guardiola's all about trusting big games where Reijnders won't necessarily track back in the same way, and Guardiola doesn't fully yet trust him to do the smart stuff, the really smart stuff. Maybe that was wrong. Reijnders is a little bit fresher. Foden and Shirky were having really poor games. And I think what you could have done if you wanted to was took Shirky off, put Foden out on the right, and Reijnders stayed central. As you could have could have put Doku on, and put Foden out on the right, Doku on the left, Reijnders stayed on, Shirky came off because Shirky was having a poor game. So it wasn't ideal. I think the forwards had a really poor game. So why did those players have a poor game? What did we get wrong is what I want to talk about. I think the most obvious explanation, and I think it's the correct one, is fatigue. We'll talk about why that is there again. There's always a why there's always a point to follow the point. But to me, the inescapable giant blue elephant in the room is fatigue, tired, and injuries. These players were fucking fucked. They were fucked on their feet. Like, I thought these players looked absolutely shattered yesterday. In the second half in particular, the decision making was really poor, and I can't but help ask, when good players start doing stupid things, why? Like, why do good players do stupid things? Usually it's either confidence or tiredness or fatigue. Those players, and when you look at the fact of how much they played recently, and the weather, the fixture calendar, and all that kind of stuff, I think it's clearly fatigue. I think it is. And the players are playing far too much football right now, and Guardiola hasn't rotated them anywhere near as much as maybe he could have done, or maybe should have done. I don't really know. Maybe he was right to keep them playing. There's two different schools of thought on that. But I think either way, the players, in my opinion, were very, very tired. It's only a personal reference here, but I have been more tired in these last 3 years since becoming a parent than I have been in the 37 years prior of my life. Like, I've been exhausted. And the amount of times I do stupid things, like, the classic stupid thing you do where you're like, you throw the empty yogurt pot in the sink and you spoon in the bin instead, the other way around, just because you're tired and you're like, ugh. Or accidentally leave the car unlocked, or forget to lock the door, or what did I do the other? I keep stubbing my toe because my spatial awareness has just disappeared a little bit because I'm so tired. Tired people do stupid things, to the point I'm making. I'm like, the other day I left the gas hob on for ages because I was knackered. It's just exhaustion. And I'm not saying these players are as tired as I am, but I'm saying the point is I'm making, when you're knackered, you make poor decisions. And I was looking at some of those passes that Phil Foden and Shirky was making. These aren't excuses. It's my attempt at an explanation. They knew to do better as a team, obviously. But I was looking at some of those passes they were making, and they were like lazy under-hit passes. And lazy, I'm not saying the lazy didn't try. I meant they just looked lazily hit, as in like swing a leg at him and put the kettle back in the fridge instead. That kind of thing. Like, I've done it more in the past 3 years, and it's absolutely because my head's elsewhere. And I keep leaving the fridge slightly open. I got to push it and all that kind of stuff. Just silly little things. I keep doing that. It's because I'm knackered. And like the days I have a good night's sleep, I'm like so on it. And like blah, 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 bang, 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 doing common sense things again. And I think they look at these players yesterday. In the last 25 minutes, I thought Manchester City were more sloppy and more frustrating to watch than they have done in ages. Like, it was just watching them make bad decisions. Like, someone just said, why can't Shirky do the Bernardo Silva job? Come on, mate. That's a tired question there. Really? Because Shirky's a maverick creator number 10. Bernardo Silva plays deep and it helps support the whole team. Anyway. But yeah, I looked at that team and they were just making poor decisions. The forward line looked knackered, but then you look how much football Phil Foden and Shirky is playing. It's probably too much. And then you think, well, why are those players playing so much? And then you look at the bench. You look at the bench and you've got, as a forward options, Doku. And there you go. I know you've got Mikasa, Hagium, Heskey and Makadu. These are children, and I don't mean to patronise, but they are youth players. I understand why Guardiola would rather play a tired Foden than Reagan Heskey, because I mean, Guardiola, I just get it. Like, and anyone banging the drum for these young lads, I know they're very talented footballer, but I understand there's barely a manager in the world that would do it. And if there's barely a manager in the world that would bring on Mikasa, Heskey and McAdoo, you got to ask yourself why. Maybe because they're experienced at these things and they understand football isn't played on spreadsheets and Football Manager. It's very, very, very hard to step in as an academy player and see a game out. As much as we talk about Chelsea, that is still an experienced team full of elite-level international footballers, so they don't want to do that, and I get that. Which comes back to the squad depth. Now, the squad depth is absolutely not good enough right now. It's poor. I maintain, you don't have to agree, in a dream scenario, when we're winning that game 1-0, we're looking a little bit leggy by 60 minutes. If you have Kovacic, Stones, Nico Gonzalez, Savinho, Oscar Bob, who else is unavailable? Marmoush and Aït-Nouri. Are you telling me that we don't win that game? I am sorry. I am adamant. Manchester City win that game yesterday if those players are available. Because what I would have done yesterday at Guardiola, I would have gone Shirky and Foden, stinking it out a little bit. I would have brought on probably Kovacic and Nico Gonzalez. I would have brought those two on. I would have said, Bernardo Silva, you go out to the right because you're defensively solid. But it's boring, but Bernardo Silva, go out to the right. Kovacic, Nico Gonzalez, come and sit alongside Rodri. And then you tell Doku on the left or something like that. Or you get John Stones on. And I know, you're not always going to have a fully fit squad. I absolutely get that. But right now, we're picking up far too many injuries. It's a little bit of bad luck, but I also think we have to be honest about why that happened. I think Guardiola, his injuries, some of this is bad luck, but I think some of it might be self-inflicted. Now, I saw two schools of thought on this. Some people are arguing that Guardiola was right to keep playing a consistent side because we're trying to find rhythm in exceptional circumstances. When I look at this Manchester City side, there are so many new stories to tell here. Donnarumma, Núñez, O'Reilly are all new to this side in their positions. Even Vardiol is new to this side in his current position. Like, he's new. Him alongside Diaz is a new thing. O'Reilly and Núñez as fullbacks is a new thing. Donnarumma as a goalkeeper and Ederson is a new thing. It's been Nico Gonzalez as a new thing. It's been Shirky as a new thing. Reijnders is a new thing. The point I'm making is several and so many, even Doku playing central is a new idea. So there's been multiple new ideas. So I understand when Guardiola's trying to fix it, that he wants to play consistency and play the rhythm into it. That I get that logic. And some people would argue that's right. The benefit of hindsight suggests that maybe Foden and Shirky should have sat some games out. Maybe we should have played Kusav a little bit more. Maybe actually Aït-Nouri. Maybe should have had some more minutes. Maybe the very tired-looking Erling Haaland and the injured Bob and Savinho should have been rested by Marmoush, who can play on the left a little bit, who's barely played as a winger this season. Maybe we should have done that. It's one of those things, is like, I do think there's something in the idea that we could have rotated a little bit more. I think Rico Lewis probably should have played a little bit more here and there. It's just one of those things where I think there's something in that. I can't say with conviction that Guardiola was wrong to keep playing those players over and over again. I don't know. I can't prove that. But I do know right now we have a bunch of players that have got injured and aren't fit and who are playing an awful lot of football and the performance has dipped. I looked at that City side yesterday and they were tired in that last half an hour because I saw sloppy passes. I saw bad decision making, and good players that suddenly turn into bad players are usually either incredibly unconfident, and they have no reason to be unconfident. We've won an awful lot of football. We're unbeaten in 10 in the Premier League. This is not a confidence issue. They are tired, in my opinion. I also don't think it's a coincidence, by the way, that it was freezing cold and we saw the sloppiest Manchester City ever. When it's freezing cold, you burn a lot more energy. So that is also a reason to rotate. When you get into winter, your energy levels deplete so quick because it's fucking minging. You're playing in cold, wet, windy conditions. Your body's got to work more. You get even more tired. That's why you've got to have a bigger squad. That's why you've got to rotate. It isn't a coincidence, in my opinion, that the players flagged big time on the coldest night of the season so far. Like, these aren't excuses. This is me trying to explain it, and these excuses actually also point towards you potentially poor planning. So I'm trying to explain it, thinking, what have we done wrong? And then now you think, well, what do we do? Like, I think it's very obvious that the squad isn't fit for purpose. I was arguing with Arsenal fans last night about, injuries and this. We've had more injuries, blah, 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 blah. I'm all about injuries now. Like, there's never been a single time at Arsenal have had a bench as weak as Manchester City's right now. City's bench is diabolical right now. Like, we've been depleted with injuries. Now, some of that is bad luck. But then some of it is just like Oscar Bob. I don't even know what's happened to Oscar Bob. He's disappeared. Savino is bad luck. He's been pretty fit. Marmoush ain't Nori. We could have seen that coming, so that's not bad luck at all. Nico Gonzalez has had to play an awful lot because of Rodri. That was inevitable. Stones is not bad luck. And Kovacic is not bad luck. Those two have always been injury prone. Likewise, Ake is rarely available. Injury prone. So some of these are obvious. 4 of these, well, 5 of these are predictable, I would argue. So that's very much a Manchester City. And then I think there's an element of we were hoping that Guardiola would trust Oscar Bob and Rico Lewis and all these guys a little bit more. He hasn't yet as a result. And it points towards this City squad, in my opinion, still just not being fit for purpose. Arsenal, I'm going to go to Arsenal. You look at their bench. And Arsenal going on about all these players missing. Like, look at they're going about players missing. And you look at the fucking state of their bench, it's ridiculous. And this is Arsenal where they are. And they spent years building to this point. This is their bench yesterday. Jesus, Saka, Trossard, Mikel Merino, Kepa, Ben White, Lewis Skelly, Norgard and Eze. That is a ridiculously deep bench. That's still got Calafiori, Mascara and Downman unavailable as well. And then you look at the team they put out: Gyökeres, Martinelli, Madueke, Odegaard, Zubimendi, Rice, Hincapi, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, Raya. Their squad is fucking deep. That is an incredibly deep squad. They're stacked, absolutely stacked. We just haven't got anything close to that. Look, how many of these players would be starting for Manchester City on the bench right now? Saka would be starting for City. Trossard would be getting minutes. Mikel Merino would be playing an awful lot. Even Norgard would be getting minutes. Eze would be getting minutes. Ben White would probably be starting a right back for City, if we're being honest. A lot of these players would be getting a lot of minutes in Manchester City. Gabriel Jesus would be back in the Manchester City side if he was available. So the point is, I think Manchester City's 11 is man-to-man with rhythm. You know, when everyone's played a little bit together, Rodri's played with Doku and Shirky more, I think we could beat Arsenal. I truly believe that. But when you start to compare the squads, it's not even close right now. There's too many question marks. And I don't think me even saying there's too many question marks is my opinion. I think the fact that several of these players are going to move on in the summer anyway proves it. When you look at that Manchester City squad, how many of those players, and I was saying this in the video I did live before about Gay with the transfer, I've still got it up somewhere. Let me look at, I'll bring up the Manchester City squad for you right now again. If you look at so many of these players, let's have a look at the lineup. I'm going to tell you some of these players that won't be here next season. Bernardo Silva on that pitch won't be here next season. So there's one already. I think the rest of them will be. Yeah, the rest of them will be. They'll all be here. So you're already down one. That's one gone. How many players have we got in our squad? Let's count them. You've got 4 goalkeepers, which is ridiculous. You only need 3 of 25. So I'm just going to call it 3 out of them because Ortega's not even in the squad. 3, you've got, I can't even be asked to list them all. Bernardo Silva, he'll be gone next year. It's very obvious. Ake, I think, will be gone. Trafford will be gone. I think he's going to want to move. Well, these are academy players, so it's irrelevant. Rico, maybe. Oscar Bob, I think, will be gone. There's a decent chance, I would say almost certainly, in my opinion, one of Marmoush or Savino will be gone. I think one of these guys is going to get no football with Semenyo coming in potentially of us returning, and I think it's a good chance one of those will go. John Stones and Kovacic, potentially. Better and Ortega. 6 or 7 of the squad are gone for certain. A certain gone, in my opinion. I think 6 or 7 players are gone from this squad. They might even be bid for another one like a Rico Lewis that we don't realise. So you're already looking, that's a third of the squad. Just under a third of the squad. So next season, there's going to be loads more change too. This Manchester City squad is just not fit for purpose right now. I can forget Phillips, don't forget, you quite easily may. So I guess this is the point I'm making, is that I feel right now, I think Bernardo wants to go Fenway in his Fenway cheap seats, and I think his contract's up as well. So I guess the point I'm making is that I think we're just clearly halfway still in this squad building thing. We're going to need multiple players. When I think of the players coming back, I think Vitor Reis will return. I think you need 5 centre-backs these days. 4 centre-backs, he just isn't fit for purpose anymore. You look at Arsenal, Saliba, Gabriel, Mascara, Hincapi, who else? There's someone else, isn't there? Calafiori can play there. Ben White can play there. They got like 6 people can play centre back. Timber can play there. They got like 7 people can play centre back, and obviously a lot of them play out wide as well as defenders. But they got so much depth. I mean, these days, 4 centre backs is not enough. You need 5. If you signed a Mark Gay, you've got Mark Gay, Ruben Diaz, Josko Vardiel. The problem right now, we've got 5 centre-backs. 2 of them are Ake and John Stones. That's half a centre-back there. And you've got Josko Vardiel, Kusanov and Diaz. Like the other, so you got 3 that you can rely on. 2 are just fucking. It's a fucking raffle. It's a lottery if they're available or not. So you've got 3 you can rely on. You need 5 you can rely on minimum. 5 minimum. So at that point you've got if you get Gay, perfect. Diaz, Vardiel, and then Vitor Reis and Kusanov. I'm fine with that. There's 5 centre-backs for you. 2 very talented young centre-backs with experience. Kusanov, plenty of Premier League experience at this point. Vitor Reis having a cracking season alone in Girona in the La Liga. There's 2 experienced young centre-backs, and then 3 experienced senior centre-backs in Gay, Diaz and Vardiel. I am fine with that. You still probably need then a DM as well who could step in if you needed to. So that to me is what you need. I think you need that next season. You need a backup right back as well. Because look, if Guardiola doesn't trust Rico Lewis to play right back often, and Núñez, there's still the odd question mark there. You need a right back. I think the left backs are covered. I think with O'Reilly, Vardiol could play left back potentially if you've got more centre backs, and Aït-Nouri, you're covered on that front. If Kovacic goes and Bernardo goes, you need another midfielder. Elliot Anderson is potentially a solution there. So you've got Rodri, you've got Nico Gonzalez, Elliot Anderson, all slightly deeper. Then you've got Reijnders. I think there's 4 there. Then you've got 2 attackers in Shirky and Foden potentially. That's not a lot still. You could argue that even another one potentially. You could argue. I think we need wingers. Savinho and Bob are going, in my opinion. Well, I think it's very likely they'll go. I might be wrong on that, but what's that leave us? Doku and Semenyo. We need 1 winger in the summer, in my opinion. Marmoush potentially, but Marmoush is the Haaland backup, and I think there's a good chance one of you goes. We are short of like 5 or 6 players. And goalkeepers, never mind goalkeepers. We could lose 3. Bettinelli might stay as the 3rd choice goalkeeper, but we're going to lose Ortega and Trafford, almost certainly. So the point I guess I'm making is like the squad just isn't fit for purpose right now. And I don't think we're managing it very well. So when I look at the Chelsea game yesterday, I think it's the inevitable conclusion I will make is that this was inevitable. Like the inevitable conclusion was inevitable. Like this City side was always going to do that. The reason I wasn't too angry at full time yesterday is because I expected it. I look at this Manchester City side and see a lot of talented players, but I don't see a great squad. I see a good Manchester City squad, capable of great things, but it requires luck. Because there's a lot of parts that are unreliable there or question marks over them. It requires players not getting injured, and it requires some of these players question marks over them. Savinho, Oscar Bob, Rico Lewis, people like that to step up and show that they are as talented as we hope they are. It required that, and so far this thing hasn't really happened. So I guess where my head is at after that game yesterday is I'm not angry, because I expected it. I think Manchester City are a very good side. Sometimes look great, sometimes look, just good or poor in moments. But I think largely, great sides see games out like that against yesterday. But we're not a great side right now. We're just a good one. We're a very good one compared to the rest of the teams in the league. And I would like to remind everyone that this Manchester City side is currently unbeaten and 10 in the Premier League. And we are 2nd in the Premier League. We are 4th in the Champions League table. We're in the semi-finals of the Carabao Cup. And we're in the FA Cup as well, of course, against Exeter. We're doing bloody well still. We're not the best side in the league right now. That's Arsenal, obviously. But I expected that. This rebuild, when you are replacing multiple, like 10 all-timers, like Ederson's an all-time Premier League goalkeeper. Kyle Walker's an all-time right back. Who else? Stones and Akanji and Ake, all those are going to go, and they are literal treble winners. Who else? Gundogan's an all-time Premier League midfielder. Bernardo Silva's going to go, an all-time Premier League midfielder. Mahrez is an all-time Premier League winger. De Bruyne is arguably the best ever player in Premier League history. Alvarez is probably like the best backup striker you could ever imagine. And he's gone. Grealish was, no, there's question marks, but he's still a £100 million player, was part of the treble side. It's fucking hard. And I think we're actually not doing too bad, considering things, but I still think there's big gaping holes that we have to address. And I think that is the reality of the situation. So that is, I think this is why I'm quite calm about it. Because I just didn't think for 1 second this Manchester City side would be perfect. If you go back to my big season preview, I put Manchester City 2nd with an asterisk. The asterisk was denoted that if Rodri stayed fit throughout the season, and it was just a big ask, I think there's a good chance we could win the league. But without him, I think we could finish 2nd. And I think 2nd is where we are. I think we are still the 2nd best side in the league, because I think there's too many question marks. Arsenal, over the course of several years, have built a very deep, very determined physical squad with enough quality to grind out results, but also an aggressive stubbornness, which is going to, and a horrible approach to set pieces, but which is effective. So they're going to do it this season, I reckon. But I don't think this is a disaster. I think where we are right now is probably just about realistic. We are rebuilding from an unprecedented era of success, and you can sit and demand success if you want to. But I would argue, like, people's perception of success has been distorted. You're only successful in people's eyes if you win the league and the Champions League. Like, if you're second in the league, that is just not good enough. And I saw people yesterday saying that this team is shit and bobbins and there's no identity. And what the fuck, man? It's not. Look, if you think there's no identity to this team, I mean this in the politest way as possible. You're a fucking idiot. You're not paying any attention. The identity is very obvious. This City side is moving to a transition-based side with pace and skill, and it's clearly getting hard runners in, and people like Doku and Semenyo, and getting big physical fullbacks, while also trying to add a little bit of element of control and aggression in the centre midfield. It's very obvious what they're trying to do. They're the most hardest running side in the league. Like, we've gone from being one of the least physical sides in the league to now no side runs more than Manchester City, which is another big tick, but also a big negative. Like, if we go back to, could we avoid this? We've made ourselves the hardest presses in the league. This is an actual fact. We run more than anyone. But that leads to injuries. So you got to rotate more. You have to. You just have to. So yeah, this Manchester City side has great players and can do great things. I think the squad still needs multiple changes naturally because it's evolving. We are replacing 12, 13 treble winners here. It's going to take an awful lot of time to do that because some transfers will be a miss. Like, we went on an unprecedented run of success with transfers. We had an absurd era where everything seemed to click. Sometimes that happens to clubs. Sometimes it does. It doesn't always happen. But it did for us. And I think we're going the right way. We are back to being a very good side again that can beat most sides in the world. I think people would do well to remember that, when they're dooming and glooming. And actually, even great Manchester City sides under Guardiola have been in a very similar situation where City are right now at this stage of the season. I'm not saying we're going to turn it around, but I'm saying this isn't like, new ground for us. We are better than last season already, and we're actually a pretty decent side. So it's one of those things where I'm calm about this because I only lose my shit if I think we're making stupid mistakes and going backwards. We're not going backwards. I still think we're on an upwards trend, building towards something, but we're still flawed, and the squad isn't good enough right now. And yes, there are mistakes made, absolutely. And I think Guardiola's made some spot decisions that haven't been perfect, absolutely. But I think it's very obvious why this is happening. We have to learn lessons, absolutely. But I feel we are still a transfer window or two away from seeing Manchester City squad compete. And I already know what people are going to be saying, rival fans. Oh, he's got to spend more money. That's fucking football in 2026, my friend. Arteta spent about $1 billion to win an FA Cup. He's finally probably going to win the league, but he's spent about $1 billion because that's what you have to do these days. You cannot replace 12 treble winners with £450 million. It ain't possible. Pete, Gundogan, De Bruyne and Bernardo would cost you £450 million anyway these days. I mean, how much does a 26-year-old, 27-year-old Bernardo Silva cost? He's better than Wirtz. Pete Bernardo Silva is better than Wirtz, in my opinion. That's £130 million. Gundogan, fucking look how much more. Gundogan at his very best, minimum £100 million. I'm sorry, Mahrez is £110 million these days. De Bruyne, call it 200. You can't replace that quality with £450 million unless you get insanely lucky. It's going to cost £700-800 million to rebuild this squad because that is the modern market and it's just incredibly expensive. That's football, guys, unfortunately. Kyle Walker's Livramento, 80 million. Are you taking the piss? Kyle Walker's twice the player Livramento is right now. He was. Kyle Walker, miles better than Livramento. And I really rate Livramento. And they want 80 million for him. Look where football's gone. It's ridiculous. 450 million gets you 4 or 5 good players if you're lucky. That's what it gets you these days. So that's it, We're fine. We'll be all right. It's frustrating, absolutely. But I can see the bigger picture in my opinion. I might be wrong about all this, but I think this Manchester City side, these things were inevitable. The reason I wasn't angry is because I expected it. I expected this Manchester City side that have gaps in quality, the squad not being too big, to make mistakes and to have these moments. Unfortunately, so this is where we're at. that's my post-mortem. I hope you enjoyed that. We move on to Brighton. It's going to be difficult because the cost of this game is Vardiol and Diaz are out. That's Kusanov and Ake there as our centre-backs. I don't fucking know how it's going to be. We've got no one other than Max Elaine on the bench. I think City, unfortunately, have to go forward. If you can get your Semenyo, you can get your Gay in right now, that would be a massive boost to this Manchester City squad. We need it, unfortunately, because that's where we're at. Because Ake and Stones are going, and we need a winger because Savino and Bob are going. Potentially. Well, Bob's going, so we've got no choice, but we're going to have to go for it because that is football. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of where we're at and what's going on. I think I spoke a lot of sense there. I might be wrong, but it felt cathartic to get it off my chest. I've tried to be honest. I've tried to look at the bigger picture, talk about every individual problem, why it's come from, and the solution, in my opinion, is probably just a bit of patience. And remember that it's 6 points back. We're all in all competitions still. And I think there's a good chance that we could achieve something good this season. We might not, but this City side isn't a bunch of idiots. They are quality players. But currently, we made some poor decisions in the transfer market. We're still feeling the effects of that over the last couple of years. And we're building towards something. It's going to take time, though. Just lock in and enjoy the ride. Thanks, guys, for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Happy New Year to a lot of you. Big love.